All right, so how can we use social media? What sort of functions do they have for businesses? All right, so one thing that we can do on social media is listening, right? So a lot of times we think about these tools as a broadcast platform, right, of people pushing content out to other people. But a lot of what we're actually doing on these sites is listening. We're taking things in. We're reading our news feed on Facebook. We're trying to find ways to aggregate and pull in information from Twitter, people's tweets. We use news aggregators like Google Reader, right, to get a sense of this broad spectrum of information. So there's so much going on out there, and actually you find that most people are doing more listening and less pushing out, the vast majority of people. So this is one thing that we're doing with social media. All right, so just an illustration of this, right? So we have Twitter, and so we think of Twitter as, this is a map of the Twitterverse, as you can call it. And so we have hundreds of tools that are associated with Twitter, right? But most of these tools are designed for capturing, for processing, for listening. They're less about broadcasting information and are more about finding a way to make sense of all of that noise, right? Finding a way to process it. So this is just one social media application, and there are so many spin-offs, right? And it's easy to get lost in the sea of applications. All right, so another function that we're all familiar with is advertising. As we all know, most of the current business activity with respect to social media relates to advertising, right? Okay, so the next, I guess the translation in English is the idea of word of mouth or word of mouth marketing. So word of mouth marketing, right, has been around for a really long time. So I like a product, I tell my friend about it, and my recommendation is particularly credible because I stand nothing to gain, right, from recommending this product to my friend. And word of mouth marketing used to be really popular, and it never really stopped being important, but as broadcast media came into the picture, right, it became more of a one-to-many type of communication, right? I'm going to put a commercial on during your favorite TV program and broadcast my message out to a bunch of people, right? So we had this shift kind of in the form of communication. But with social media, we have this new tool that can support word-of-mouth marketing in a new and different way, right? So we can have these conversations on a larger scale. We can spread information more rapidly, right? So it's kind of changing the game a little bit. Okay, and just a little bit more on this point, right? The idea is that we're moving from shouting to having a conversation, or at least that's what many people say about social media, right? So they enable us to, instead of just only having this one-to-many kind of dynamic, that we can actually be conversing with our consumers, conversing with our customers, right, in a more reciprocal kind of way. Customer service, okay, so this is a big one. So a great example of a company that's really leveraged social media for customer service is Zappos. If you're not familiar with Zappos, they're an online shoe retailer that was acquired by Amazon, and they're known for providing excellent customer service, and one of the ways that they do this is by leveraging social media. So, for instance, the moment that anyone tweets anything about Zappos, someone from the company responds to that automatically. Be it a positive thing or a negative thing, they're really on top of it. So that's just one example of a company that is really leveraging social media to provide excellent customer service. And this is an increasing trend, as we know. So we use social media to listen, but of course we also use them to have conversations, right? So this is a way for us to converse with larger groups of people, with different groups of people on a different scale. But we have to keep in mind that they still don't necessarily support all the types of conversation that we might want them to, right? So there are types of conversations that we have in the real world that we can't necessarily have with social media. So we can't necessarily engage in deep conversation. Another thing that social media don't seem to support so well is the ability to engage in a meaningful conversation with a really large group of people, right? So take, for example, if you visit a news site and there are 2,000 comments on a particular story, how could you meaningfully engage in a conversation with all the people who've made these comments, right? So this isn't really something that social media necessarily support yet, but it's something that might be developed, right? All right, so engagement and loyalty. So we know that companies are using social media to build brand loyalty, but it's not always a necessarily easy and straightforward task, right? One company that is a really great example of building brand loyalty and engagement through social media is Coca-Cola, right? So Coke has recently said that while TV advertising is, of course, still extremely important for them, they're now putting more money into social media campaigns like Facebook, YouTube, 20. I think they're one of the top 3 advertisers on 20's site. So Coke is actually pushing money into these social media sites, and they've also even developed their own proprietary social media-oriented website called the Coke Zone, where there's exclusive content and rewards available for members. So just one example of a company who is leveraging these technologies to do that. And networking, of course. We're all familiar with the site LinkedIn, I'm sure, one of the biggest professional networking site out there with, close to 100 million users. So this is yet another capability that is supported by these technologies. Another example, these types of networks are popping up all the time. I was reading an article this week that there's a new social network designed exclusively for surgeons to share best practices and connect with other doctors, right? And there's all kinds of niche professional networks like this popping up all the time. All right, so collaboration. This is a huge one, right? I think probably the most well-known example to many of us of collaboration on the web is Wikipedia, right? Everyone's familiar with that example. But there are a variety of other tools that probably aren't designed necessarily to support collaboration, right? So Facebook is probably not the best tool. But this is really an exciting area because there's a lot of room for growth, and there's much space for the development of new tools for collaboration in the workplace. So it's also important to keep in mind that collaboration can take many different forms, ranging from project management to brainstorming, and for as many different types of collaboration as there are as many different types of tools that can be designed to support that. And this is a space that's really has a lot of opportunity right now. Just a few examples. There's an enterprise brainstorming platform called Spigot that's attracted some attention lately. Salesforce.com has developed a workplace collaboration software called Chatter. So there are some key players coming out in this, but like I said, it's still a really hot new area.